Good morning, everybody. Happy Christmas Eve to everyone. And we are going to do an opponent breakdown of the Arizona State Sun Devils. Offense, defense, and at the end, we're going to look at the playoff bracket, look at the other games, see what Paul thinks about the rest of the brackets. We're not here to waste any time, Paul, are we?
No, we're here to wish you all a Merry Christmas and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year when Texas beats that ass.
Paul feels confident, as you can tell, and I agree with
ignorant
Paul.
And loud Arizona State fan base has me motivated.
I enjoy it, man. It's better than the meek fan base, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any of those left. We got Ohio State still in the mix.
Yeah, Arizona State's board feels confident. A couple of YouTubers of them feel confident. But hey, that's good for engagement, and it's better. Like, I don't know what the other. I want them to be meek and humble.
A lot of Arizona State commenters and fans have like Guy Fieri energy.
Yeah, but that's also awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's also awesome. So
they're like dudes with like blonde tipped hair who have like a catchphrase.
That's ASU, baby.
We would probably blow up as a channel if I would blonde tip my hair and have like a catchphrase.
Dude, I have a third.
In your face.
I have a third grade picture of me with frosted tips, white tee.
Third grade.
Third grade. That's when the trend was. That's how young I was.
Yeah, but you were a third grader.
Yeah, we were at third grade, maybe fifth. Frosted tips, white tee, puka shell necklace, dude. You
puka shell, yes, yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah, dude. I
give my buddy Randy Boone a lot of grief about baseball players wearing puka shell necklaces.
Yeah, dude. I was a creature of the culture back then. It's good to see Homer being positive about it going against Arizona State compared to Clemson. I still thought we were going to win versus Clemson. I just thought that they were a scarier matchup, and I stand by it.
Ian was the doom bringer.
Ian got the score right though. After a whole week,
he did not get the score right.
Yeah, he did.
He got their score right. He said we'd win by 3.
Oh, is that what he did?
Yeah, he said it was going to be like overtime or something.
I think Ian feels good about it, but I did see Ian do a post. Kieran on Twitter said, "What do you guys see from this play?" He's showing the early running game versus Iowa State where they're getting blown off the ball. Arizona State's just getting handled. And then Ian retweeted and he said, "I see like a team of like scrappy defenders that don't care who get the credit." And I was like, "Oh no, Ian's going with the plucky underdog storyline here." So we'll see. I'm excited to read the article. Let's see what Ian thinks. We'll know shortly. All right, let's look at Arizona State, y'all. Let's do their breakdown. Of course, we're in the playoffs, right? So everyone has pretty good numbers. So not a ton of like a little bit of Christmas tree going on here, but nothing like we see in the regular season. So it's been a fairly good offense. Not a ton of plays per game, slower pace, right? It makes sense, right? They run a lot, and we'll of course talk about the player that makes their offense go. But 25th in points per game, pretty solid. 23rd in yards per play, that's good. This is really good too. Opponent points per drive, they're 10th in the country. So that's solid. That means they're an efficient team too. Good success rate, able to move the ball forward consistently. Not very explosive. So they're having to earn their offense the old-fashioned way, putting together some drives, which is interesting. And then their low in havoc rate. So not a ton of fumbling, not a ton of interceptions occurring. So overall, these numbers is without looking at the individual run or pass, overall solid offense that executes the hard way.
Anything else? I think this is enabled somewhat by the
Big 12. Yeah.
I think also they do a great job of not like killing themselves. But a big undergirding of a lot of this is
schedule, right?
And Jordan Tyson, that guy was,
dude, he's nice,
really good, and he's out, and they don't really have any replacements. Also, this opponent record is revealing, right?
Right. So I make sure to do this so anything in the yellow means it's a winning team, but kind of a middling winning team. Anything in red is a losing team, and anything in green is like a good winning team, right?
I like this.
Yeah. So they don't play a ton of good teams. They play some good middling teams. They lose to Texas Tech
and Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, oddly. But you'll see that that's correlated with Scadaboo's going under 100 yards.
Yeah. I would say they're playing their best football, right? Their last 4 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got W's against 3 winning teams, 2 10-win teams, and of course they blew out their rival. So
yeah, which is what you're supposed to do. I think
they're best now.
Yeah. If you're talking about rounding in the form, absolutely. Yesterday I watched BYU and Iowa State. I'm going to watch some more today. I think I'm really going to pick Kansas State. Originally, I was going to go back and kind of watch their early season losses, but I don't think this is the same team. So I think like going too far back would give you a false belief of what they are. So I'm trying to stick generally with kind of their recent stuff. Not a great schedule, but what matters, right, is when they did play a good team. BYU, this game was weird. The score looks close. It wasn't close. They were up a ton, and then BYU got to come back in it like in the 4th.
Yeah, they were up 21-0.
Yeah, early. So they skunked BYU. They just let BYU back in the game. So the score looks close, but really wasn't that close. And then they beat the brakes off Iowa State. It was like tied or something in the second quarter, and then Arizona State just laid it on them.
I got to say that was a huge egg lay by Iowa State. Their talent's down, but boy, their game plan on both sides of the ball was horrendous. It was a really bad effort by Matt Campbell, and he never bet on that guy unless he's a massive underdog.
Yeah, pretty much. They can't front run. Arizona, I haven't watched this one yet. I will. Well, I probably won't. 49-7 doesn't give me a ton of value. But good win versus Kansas State. I always have respect for that program. So we can kind of knock their schedule, but the inverse is true too, right? If Arizona State wanted to break us down, they would try the same thing with Texas. But it is important context Paul was saying, right? Because some of these are not opponent adjusted. So fair game there. All right.
Well, also, even if when it is, advanced statistics are great. I mean, they're very helpful in helping to understand and contextualize football teams. But you have the Indiana effect. And you used to have this with Baylor, right? You are given points and sort of credit inordinately for blowing out bad to mediocre teams. And sometimes blowing out bad to mediocre teams doesn't scale depending on how you play football.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So Indiana, by the power rankings, was a very comparable team to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
In fact, if you were a pure analytics bettor, which a lot of Vegas guys are, the big public underdog, and then a lot of sharps were betting Indiana to cover that game.
Right.
Then you flip on the game and you watch it and you go, oh, these are 2 different levels of athlete. Like all that stuff doesn't matter.
It's kind of not 1-to-1, but like remember when Ole Miss was playing the FCS teams, beating them 70-0.
Yes.
And we were like, they're going to win the national championship, and then they played Kentucky, who just had guys.
Yeah.
Struggle.
That's
so
right.
yeah. 100%.
So I think part of this is you got to look at, the analytics and stuff are awesome, but you got to trust your eyes. And when you watch Arizona State, and we'll talk about this more, it's a different level of dude and athlete than what Texas is rolling out there on the field.
Yeah. So let's talk about the rushing offense, which has their best player by far. And that's the eye test will tell you that one too, right? Cam Scadaboo, real deal in the pass game, run game, really good, man, behind man schemes, right? Their counter run game. He has super good feel there. He'll also pass block. So Cam's been an exciting player to watch. One thing that is noted, whenever Cam doesn't do well, the offense doesn't do well. So you hold Cam below 100 yards, your chances of winning go up a ton.
And I'd say magnified even more by the fact that Jordan Tyson's out. Yeah. So Texas State, of all people, did a great job of stopping Cam Scadaboo. They dedicated a bunch of guys at the box, and Texas State actually has a decent D-line. And then Sam Leavitt was able to beat them through the air, mostly throwing the ball to Jordan Tyson. That option just not around anymore. And so I think that's going to put a huge limitation on their upset potential, their ability to punch up.
And then Sam will do some well-timed running too.
I love this guy. I love Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, I think I like him too a lot. Let's look at this real
quick. You don't love him? You feel like love was too strong?
Yeah. Yeah,
I went too hard there.
Because if you love him, why don't you marry him, Paul?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. That's a good comeback, man. You should be Arizona
It's
State.
original. It's original too. I just thought of that one.
You should cut Arizona State YouTube content with that kind of wit.
Yeah, dude. All right, so this is Cam's numbers by game. So he got held under 100 versus Kansas State. They scored 24.
Yeah.
He got held under 100 versus Cincinnati, and they
14.
lost. Yeah. He got held to 60 versus Texas Tech, and they lost. He got held to 62 versus Texas State, and they won by 3. Right? He got held to 49 by Wyoming, but he's not playing because they're up by 49. But seriously, the method here is Cam goes under 100, your odds of winning skyrocket.
I would say look at Cam Scadaboo's receiving yards. That guy, he's an amazing receiving back out of the backfield. And there are multiple games, depending on game plan, where that is the game plan. Feed him through the passing game, through the screen game. He's great on screens. He's also really good just catching the ball. Like he can run around.
Nice hands. Yeah, he has nice hands.
And he looks like he's a stubby power back. All of his weight is in his butt and his legs. And when he's running, he doesn't look fluid, but he's extremely fluid.
What are those kids' toys that are balanced on the bottom, and you just
wobble?
Yeah, like his contact balance is absolutely insane. He
He's
does
a
some
punching
stuff.
duty.
He does some stuff I haven't seen since Bijan, like where you're just like, how did you stay up? He has a remarkable balance.
He's a stud. To me, he and Ashton Genty are head and shoulders above in terms of talent and production. Then Jeremiah Love has the talent, but not the production necessarily at Notre Dame, like those two.
Yeah.
But I think Cam Scadaboo's the equivalent of Janty, just in terms of impact in the college game. That's how good he is.
Yeah, he has 2 100-yard receiving games as a back.
Yeah, and he, like, it's not little 6-yard checkdowns. Like, it's not 37 catches for 300 yards. It's 37 catches for 500 yards. He's averaging almost 14 yards a catch.
Yeah.
He makes really big plays in the passing game, and you've got to be cognizant. Also, not a fumbler. He's touched the ball 300 times, and he's fumbled 3 times. So he fumbles 1% of the time.
Yeah.
That's a good ratio for a guy who's carrying a huge part of the load.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about old Cam. He's an absolute baller. Let's look at this, right? It's hard to see, but PFF, if you put him in the SEC, he's the number 1 back. No surprise. He has the tied for 5th in yards per attempt, which I have 5.9. Really good there. Yards after contact per attempt, he's 3rd in the country, or 3rd in the SEC. I apologize. And then breakaway percentage, he is a little bit lower. Let me see. He's 13th in breakaway, which is still good out of 30th. So he's not going to like blow the doors off you all the time, but man, he just picks up yards after yards after yards. It's pretty remarkable what he can do. And then they also put in Kyson Brown. They put Kyson in for a lot of screen game. So that's the number 2 back. You'll see. He's not Cam, of course, but there is a number 2 back. He does exist, and they do like to use him in the screen game. All right, let's look at the rushing offense. Rushing plays rate, 11th in the country. They run 60% of the time. So that's solid. Let's see. Put him in the SEC, and his numbers don't look the same. I said if you put Cade Klubnik in the SEC last week, he'd be like number 2, and everybody said it doesn't scale, and then he did well versus Texas. So it's like these numbers generally – good players are generally good players.
I would say this, Quentin. Put him in the SEC behind an RO line, and his numbers scale just fine.
Yeah.
I think the issues with when he gets stopped, it's not because he's not good enough. It's because his offensive line gets worked. And that's what Texas is.
My thing is NFL players are NFL players.
Yeah, Cam Scadaboo's awesome, man. I promise you. Ashton Genty plays Wyoming and Colorado State. I promise you, if you put him on Texas, he's a 2,000-yard rusher.
Yeah. Good players are good players. That's like saying Bijan's nothing because he played in the Big 12. All right. So rushing plays rate, they're 11th in the country. Yards per rush, 4.8, 38th. Not as high as you would think, though, right? So their yards are dirtier than you realize. Rushing yards per game, I don't care about that. Rushing success rate, 11th. So moving forward. Big thing, though, rushing explosivity. This is not like you think good running back, right? You think like 80-yarders. Not necessarily. But the problem with him is like he's just picking up 5, picking up 5, picking up 5, picking up 20, picking up 5, picking up 5, that kind of thing. Well, the thing is, we're a good defense, so we will shut them down, and then Quentin will be like, "I told you," but that's just because I think we're a good defense. It's like Ollie Gordon, right? Last year. All right, so they're not that explosive though. Offensive line yards doing pretty well, 30th in the country. Not great on those 3rd and 4ths and gotta have it, right? Texas is really strong there. So 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, you're gonna like Texas's odds most of the time. Get us another goal line stop. Let's see. Is ASU one-dimensional? Do we only have to worry about Cam? They were not one-dimensional, but now they are unfortunately one-dimensional. We'll talk about that shortly when we talk passing game.
Anakin Foulwalker.
Yeah,
love it.
It's a hell of a picture too.
Is that an owl?
No, it's like a little pug dressed up as one of those Star Wars creatures with like an action figure on it.
I don't have my glasses on. It's like, is that an owl? You're like, no, it's a pug.
No, granddad. And then offensive stuff rate. How did I just delete that number? That's not good. There we go. And then offensive stuff rate 40th, right? So at least they're not letting people like go into the backfield and blow them up. But also I have to watch more. Sometimes that stuff rate looks good, like it's an offensive line thing. But remember when Bijan and Rojo would just get stopped in the backfield, but they would juke everyone and still get it? That might be the case. The Cam Scatterbo is just not letting you take them down.
Well, you let me know when you want me to talk about the rushing attack schematically and how they set it up.
Go right now. Go for it.
Okay. So they run from 11 personnel. They run from a spread. They don't get big. They don't double team at the point of attack. They try to get their O-line one-on-one matchups across the board. They try to get guys out on your second level. They're not trying to get a push. And they assign free defenders to Scatterbo and just say, make that run through that guy's tackle. And what they're counting on is that most of the time that guy will contact Scatterbo and then Scatterbo will fall forward and get 3 or 4 yards. When that guy doesn't make the tackle and they leak their linemen on the second level and the third level, suddenly Cam is gone and he's breaking off a big run and he's trucking people. They also get a lot of weird angles and they do different stuff because they're counting on, again, Scatterbo to make people miss. This is an offensive running system that would not work without this guy carrying the football, because he makes jump cuts. At the same time, he's got that crazy ability to run through tackles. And you'll watch some of his highlights, and you're like, oh, that was a big hole. What you ignore is the fact is he was contacted at the line of scrimmage by a free edge who was coming down, right, who's unblocked. And he just runs through him like he wasn't even touched by the guy.
Yeah.
And you don't pick it up until you rewind it and you go, oh, wait, he ran through a defensive end at the beginning of that play.
They'll like bump him at weird angles and it's like he's going down. He lands like one-footed, rebalances, and just keeps
going.
Puts
his hand down, and spins and keeps running. Yeah. So, a lot of their running scheme is built on the idea. So for those of you who don't know, often in a running scheme, you'll say, all right, there's a guy on the edge of the line or sometimes a linebacker, and you call him the ugly, meaning don't touch him, don't block him. And then you block everybody else. And the ugly is assigned to the running back. Basically, that ugly is on the backside of the play. And what they're telling to the running back is, hey, get in there quick so you get that guy isn't able to get an angle on you and put contact on you. Or, as with Cam Scatterbo, hey, just run through his tackle. That's the assignment of their running game. And because they have 3 wide and because they have a tight end still, often teams are too deep and they have their nickel and their 2 corners out. So 5 people are out of the immediate box. And so what you're basically saying is our blockers are going to go 5-on-5 or even 6-on-5. And Cam, you just make that dude miss you. And even when that guy makes contact on him, it's still 2nd and 7. He falls forward. It's not 2nd and 11. So that's the thing that makes their run game special. The difference is he's going to be getting hit by Baron Sorrell. He's going to be getting hit by Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. And that's going to be a little bit different from getting hit by 235-pound 3-star Big 12 edge.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like the Big 12, like on the Big 12, there's going to be one defender on that defensive line that he's going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, they're blocking.
But at Texas, all 4 are going to the league.
Yeah.
Right? And at least one linebacker and several of the 8 out of 11 players or whatever are going to the NFL. That's the difference between the Big 12 and the SEC that I've noticed. Like the Big 12 always has 1 or 2 guys you got to watch out for. When you're playing Texas, there's about 8 guys you got to watch out for on defense.
Well, and I'll say there are individual years in the Big 12 where you had multiple defensive linemen who are NFL guys, right? They're down this year, like really down on the D line. And so a guy like Alfred Collins, Arizona State has not encountered that human being in the middle. And so when their guard fires out, they're used to Big 12 space occupiers, which is we're trying to tie. Like I'm trying to hold you and I'm kind of got control of the gap and we're pushing on each other and we're locked up. Alfred Collins is going to grab that guard, jack him up, hold him, and then discard him when he decides where he wants to go. And that's something they're about to counter that will be very different for them. And that's where the Guy Fieri, Arizona State commentators are not quite getting the differences in football. Because our defensive linemen are going to take their O-line and like shake them like a pit bull on a chew toy. And they've not had that experience yet.
Yeah.
Drew Kelson.
Yeah, we have to win one-on-ones across the D-line. We need some ragdolling. Yep.
And if you guys watch the Sorrell against Clemson, he had a really good game. But there were even plays where he couldn't really make a play because of the design of the play, right? And the distance Klubnik was from him. But you would see Baron Sorrell would sort of jack up and throw the offensive tackle down at the end of the play or like jack him, just shock him and the guy's head snaps back just because.
Just giving him reps.
Just because he wanted to, like just because he felt like it. And over time on a football field, it's not fun to have someone do that to you.
No, it's not. No,
it wears on you. So I think Drew is exactly right. You've got to really have that aggressive mindset that even though I'm not in the position to make the play, I'm going to like humiliate you. I'm going to, hurt you. I'm going to stuff you just because I can. Like we're not making deals out here. We're not making bargains. Yeah. And that's the attitude that Texas is going to bring, and they're going to bring it with talent. So a lot of Arizona State is really well schemed. They have a great running back. They have a really promising young quarterback. I love Levitt, and I think people are underselling him, but they just don't have the weapons and they don't have the supportive infrastructure.
Yeah, I agree. And when we get back, we will talk about Sam Levitt. But first, for all your real estate needs, you need to contact Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512 or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
All right. And then quick thing, they run a lot of man scheme or gap scheme, so not as much zone. So this is what's a play called GT counter. This is out of 11 personnel. Now, of course, your Y is not normally going to be doing this. We're disregarding kind of the diagram of the Y. But when Paul's talking about leaving that, well, I guess you guys called him the ugly, don't touch him, that backside end, that's the guy who gets left alone. But most importantly, you're going to see a lot of this guard and this tackle pulling. And Cam is just really remarkable. He can follow through the hole. He can bounce it outside, and he'll also cut it back on you. So he's got this play is kind of designed to go one place. It can go 3 places when you have a good running back, and Cam is definitely a good running back.
Well, and GT counter, if you get the timing down on it right, running backs who are good can really maximize this play. I mean, this is a classic football play. The Hogs with the Washington Redskins back in the 80s used to run this to perfection. Yeah. It's obviously Lincoln Riley adopted a version of it for OU in their prime. And if you get good at it, you get proficient at it, It's a phenomenal play. You know what kills it though, Connor?
What?
Penetration.
That's true. And if this end can crash down,
Hard.
you gotta as soon as this guy goes to the nickel, you gotta completely just see this lane where this tackle. Sorry, you guys, you see this tackle is coming up here. If you take this end and you shove this tackle right there, you force him to bounce. Now the strong safety can come be forced, make the play. But it's all about this end on the play side crashing down here.
Yeah, that's a big part. The other part is the backside, downside blocks. So the size of the hole is actually going to be determined by how much movement you get on your downside blocks.
So your nose and your tackle here.
And if your nose or your tackle can work across that play is destroyed. Or if your nose just fires out and penetrates, or your tackle penetrates, Collins, Broughton, very capable of doing that. Lole, that play is dead in the water because you've got two pullers, Connor. What happens to your pullers if a defensive tackle play side is pushing people back?
They can't get through.
Well, they literally run into their own blocker. They run into your defensive player. It becomes a big jumble, and then Scadaboo has to try to bounce it, but you've got leverage outside to the ball.
Yeah, and Scadaboo can absolutely bounce it, but that's why you play sound defense, right?
And any running back running laterally, even a guy as good as Scadaboo, you don't have to be very good to bring that guy down.
Definitely better than forward.
Yes, if he's running forward and he's got a two-way go, you're in trouble because he's a guy who can truck you and he's a guy who can run around you and make you look silly.
Cool. So Scadaboo, real deal running back, but right now, unfortunately, kind of their only option. Now they've had a couple weeks to scheme up, and Arizona State is a very competent, competently coordinated team. So I think they're going to have stuff for us to answer for that. It's not like they're just going to go, oh, well, shucks, we don't have a passing game anymore. But their number one guy is out with a upper body injury, which I would assume is some type of collarbone or shoulder type thing. He was in a sling. Do you know if they ever said officially what it was?
Who is out?
Number one wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. I didn't care about. I just knew the dude was gone for the year. That's all I cared about.
Yeah, they've just said upper body.
I think he has a separated shoulder, maybe.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe a broken collarbone.
Yeah, whenever they say that, it's always shoulder or collarbone with me. So this is the rushing offense, good, but hold Scadaboo under 100 yards, Texas wins. Passing offense, we'll look at this first, and then we'll get into their personnel. Passing plays rate, 125th in the country. They do not pass that often. When they do, they're effective. So off the play action, Sam Levitt really strong.
We're effective.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's what's going to be different, right? Like Arizona State has been effective in the intermediate game. We got to see what they can do versus us. Passing plays rate 125th. Don't pass a lot. But Sam Levitt off the play action has really strong effect, and they're good in the intermediate game. So 10th in the country in yards per pass when they do pass.
So, I actually think Sam Levitt at his stage of development is Cade Klubnik's a good comp for him. He's just Levitt's a freshman.
Yeah, he's young,
he's a redshirt freshman, but he's got great legs. He throws a nice ball, and he uses his legs. Most dual threat quarterbacks actually get themselves more into trouble in pass rush than not. He is like Cade Klubnik in that he uses his legs to actually help his own line and help his protection. They've only been sacked 16 times this year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's schematic and Levitt, like knowing what to do and where to go with the ball and like helping his O-line out because their O-line is not dominant by any means. So I think he's a great quarterback. And for his age, for the system, for what they're trying to do, man, he does a great job. But deprived of his number one option, I don't see how this guy is going to throw for 200 yards against Texas. Like, that's not happening.
Well, and Tyson's a quarterback's best friend. Like, Levitt throws a good ball, but also Tyson makes some nice catches, too.
He makes plays on the ball.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So to give y'all an idea, Jordan Tyson would start for Texas.
Yeah.
And he would be co-number ones with Matthew Golden right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good play on the ball. 6'1", 195, redshirt sophomore. And then he had a ton of targets, like 113 targets. And the next highest targeted guy, I think, is probably Cam. I don't have his targets. It's either Cam or the tight end
It's Cam. Cam's their number 2 receiver.
Yeah. So it goes Tyson as their number 1, Cam as their number 2, and then Mateo.
Guillory is number 3, at least in terms of receptions.
Who is?
Xavier Guillory.
Oh, Guillory. Yeah, he might be. Oh, no. Yeah, as far as targets. So Mateo has more targets than Guillory. I don't know about receptions, though. That's catch rate. So that's a big difference.
Well, that's surprising because Mateo doesn't have many catches. That they're very inefficient throwing to the tight end.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Mateo, too, because he's had to force himself into being more important with Jordan Tyson going down. Just know that Jordan Tyson was a number 1 receiver. If you guys remember how Iowa State was with like Xavier Hutchinson, spam him the ball, he is the receiver type thing, similar.
Yeah.
And Tyson going down is a big deal. So that's important. And that takes away them having a full menu because they were a balanced team. They're balanced in that they had targets, not balanced in that they were 50-50 run.
They used to have the Cheesecake Factory menu, but now it's in and out.
Yeah. Which sometimes can be a clarifying effect too with good coaching of like, I want to see what they do. I'm interested to watch that coaching staff. Passing explosivity, right? When they do pass, like I said, they're effective. 25th in the country in explosivity, really good on the play action. You see it with Iowa State and BYU, who I watched. Man, they will get you biting so hard on the run. Like stupid, where it's like you should never commit that hard before you know what's going on. And when they do that, they're able to slip somebody further the slot or whatever. They'll slip them on a big post. They'll hit them wide open.
Well, think about what you said, like Holt's got to be under 100, we win. And that's all the coaches are showing the defense all week, right? Stop Scabba. Here's its gap. Come on, guys, you got to bring it. Linebacker, why are you standing there? Bring it. Let's get up the field. And then they pull the ball and Levitt throws it downfield. And they're like, oh, how could you bite on that safety, right? So this is important. It's clarifying for the Texas secondary. We have not made many mental mistakes. We made most of them all last week against Clemson. And we've got to be real clear on what we're doing and like who's got what. And I think we may see a few more snaps from Jelani McDonald. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost want man on. You almost want to go man. So there's not this like zone intentionality of
I'd go man
towards the ball. Yeah. There's like, I almost want you're like the corners. You're never going to bite because you're always going to be on your receiver,
I would try to shut them down outside and then have an extra guy drop down in the box. And we have not done that this year. We played really balanced defense and just basically said, hey, we're not going to give up explosives. This would be the team to just say, hey, we're going to physically dominate you at the point of attack, and we don't think you can throw the ball over our heads.
Yeah. Sack percentage, like you said, they have not been sacked a high amount of times. And Sam Levitt, I think he's like 13% in pressure to sack rate. So he does really well navigating the pocket. He's a good player under pressure. For a young guy, man, this is an impressive young quarterback.
I love Levitt. I think he has a really bright future.
So do I. So the passing attack is definitely hurt without their number 1 receiver. They have a couple other guys. Mateo at tight end gets targeted a lot. Guillory. And then also, if you guys remember, Troy O'Meary for us, he's now the starting Z. But I think he has like 6 targets on the year. He has like no reps.
Yeah, injuries did that guy in, unfortunately.
Yeah, but O'Meary, if you guys remember, O'Meary will be on the field. But mostly they've also been hitting, as far as like recent games, BYU and Iowa State, they've been hitting slot Stovall a lot too recently.
Stovall's like their slot fade guy off of play action.
And they call it.
As long as you're aware of that, he's controllable.
And they call it a lot, right? Because they what we're saying to beat them, these coaches aren't dumb. They know we want to play man. Like me and Paul want to play man, right? So we can be in the box. Well, they know automatically when you do that, now you're dealing with one-on-one matchups outside, right? And so that they're going to be calling those kind of slot fades, that kind of stuff, pick routes, all that.
Well, I was going to say, based on the Clemson game, I know what there's going to be a rub route on mesh with the tight end pass blocking our nickel on probably the first play of the game. So.
Yeah. Texas State nearly beat them. Texas Tech did beat them. Mississippi State played them with a different QB than we played. Maybe a Vanderbilt type team. Sure, I can see a Vanderbilt kind of comparison. I think they're better. But here's if you notice too, what you said, when did they play all these teams?
Start of the year.
And so that's the difference thing, because that's my inclination too, I believe. Whenever I first looked at it, I was like, man, you're losing to Cincy. I mean, you lose mid-time, but all of those kind of closer games are kind of in the beginning of the year. If you look what they've been able to do recently, they've been able to get better.
So Vanderbilt is built out. Their offense is built out around Diego Pavia and what he can do with his legs and what he can do opportunistically with his arm. Arizona State is built out around Cam Scadaboo and power rush concepts.
And they're also not as like cute in schematics. Like Arizona State doesn't do. Vanderbilt has a very hyper fitted scheme.
Yeah, and a lot of like reads and RPOs and different stuff. It's the weight of the offense, the gravity of the offense is centered on Diego Pavia. The gravity of the offense, we want it to be on Sam Leavitt and their receiving core, because Leavitt's just not going to have the throwing options. This is a Manny Muhammad get right game.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to have an opportunity to show that he's dialed back in, because Jahdae Barron's going to shut down the poor Arizona State guy that goes against him.
Yeah, Clemson was spamming that wide receiver pick play. Yeah, the mesh over the middle. You think Texas is going to see that play more?
Yes.
Forward? Yeah, of course. And we dealt with it. Remember, Houston last year spammed it on us. But
but they didn't have to run the pick.
Here's the thing that Clemson was doing that a more alert referee squad will call is Clemson wasn't even pretending to run routes. They were running their tight end over. This is illegal, by the way. But I loved the refs. I didn't even think the refs existed till the third quarter. I really enjoyed them. But the part where they weren't doing their jobs is that they would run over the middle. Our DB would try to get to him. The guy who was running the over of the mesh would stop, move in front of him, and then put his hands out. It's illegal. What they were doing is just 100% illegal. So hopefully, if I'm Sark and I see that early, I'm in the ref's ears yelling immediately, so that doesn't happen in the third and fourth quarter.
Well, you do the coaches thing, which is, hey, if you're not calling that, we are going to run that, and we're going to execute it just like that. And if you throw a flag, you're going to have to walk over here and explain what are you on FanDuel right now? Like, what are you doing? Because that's something you're going to have to explain to your boss.
Yeah.
When this game gets reviewed, and that usually will get officials like kind of shock them into reality. But I mean, the officials were just letting everybody play in that game.
So overall, advanced offense, OFEI, this is the 6th ranked offense, right? Executing. What's interesting, why I include OF plus is a mix of FEI and SP plus. SP plus utilizes recruiting rankings, so talent advantage. So why I use these two numbers is it's saying this is the 16th ranked team as far as execution and talent. And then this is saying as far as execution, they're 6th. So this just shows me when I put these two numbers together that this team is playing above their talent level. And I think that's an important thing. And that's how I use those two numbers mentally.
I like that. That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
In relation to each other.
Yeah.
What I would do is my Indiana caution at the beginning of this, throw out the numbers as the absolute ranking.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't scale.
Yeah.
This won't scale against Texas. It's not going to scale against Georgia. It's not going to scale against South Carolina. So
yeah, the only thing that really scales against the big dogs is your recruiting ranking, which is how it goes.
Well, and also, you know what? Arizona State does not turn over the ball. Mm-hmm. They just don't turn it over. And so that will keep you in games. It's actually hard to blow someone out who's playing hard, who has some talent. Mm-hmm. If they don't turn the ball over at all. Like, it's very difficult to put a 42-7 on somebody like that. Mm-hmm. You can win, and you can win with margin comfortably, but you're not going to destroy someone unless they start doing self-inflicted wounds.
So how often has ASU been taken off schedule? As far as negative plays, yeah, so they are bad in penalties per game.
Okay? I think that's defense, dude.
Yeah, and you'll see that. And that's why I included not as offense. I just do it as a total team stat.
Yeah, so their defense, we'll talk about it. Super aggressive, lots of personal fouls, lots of cheap shots. They have the attitude of like, hey, if it's a free shot on the quarterback, make it worth it. It's worth the 15. Yeah. And honestly, it's not a bad defensive philosophy.
Honestly, I agree. Yeah, I'll take a couple 15-yarders in the first quarter if it makes the quarterback shy in the second.
Well, there is a consequence to that, Connor. You know what that's tied into, right?
What?
they have a player who's one of their best secondary players who's going to be out for targeting in the first half.
Yeah. They're nickel. Yeah,
he's the nickel, and the backup is a freshman who ain't real good.
Yeah. So penalties, yes, but Paul said it might be heavy on defense. As far as negative plays, no, they're 11th in offensive success rate. So this team is able to keep moving forward because of a really dependable run game, but also, like I said, when they pass, they're effective. So no, this team is not used to being frustrated. And what you'll see too, that's really important, and the broadcast talks about this all the time. They were one of the worst third down teams in the country last year. This year, they're 14th. So, man, you got to love that third down stop. That's just basically a proxy for how efficient it's an offense.
Well, and also just think about reason from first principles. They're handing the ball off a lot on gap run plays. Mm-hmm. There's just not much opportunity for penalties.
Yeah.
Or turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, Scottaboo doesn't fumble, and they're not asking these guys to reach block.
Correct. You're not going to get holds.
They're asking these guys to block down and pull.
Yep.
And you don't get a lot of holds on that kind of scheme.
Yeah, versus like our outside zone running, which is all about reaching. And we end
up if a dude's whipping your ass in outside zone, you can either let your running back get lit up or you can hold him.
Yep.
So that is
a very good point. Their scheme there also limits that. And then as far as we are asking about negative plays, 20th in the country in standard down rate. So they're able to stay on schedule very well. And they have on standard downs, they execute at a 12 success rate. When they are putting those passing down 2nd and 10, 3rd and 6, they're still 14th in the country in getting things done. This is an effective football team that has some talent, not a ton of NFL stuff, but talent. But their coaches know what they're doing too.
Well, if you want to be explosive in your own life, if you want to have the best possible offense, when you go to war to go buy a house, and folks, it's a competition out there. It is going to war, and it's the most important financial war you ever fight. You need the right soldier. You need the right general in the background helping direct things. That's Gabe Winslow. You got to reach him at 832-557-1095. Call Gabe. He is a UT graduate. He's a proud sponsor of Inside Texas, and he loves helping out folks getting a house. It's the realization of most people's American dream, and it's something Gabe takes really seriously, and he's damn good at it. 20 years in industry, law degree. He's owned a title company. He's just an expert at this. He's a whiz. Give him a call. If he's not your first call, make sure he's your last call. 832-557-1095.
The one and only Gabe Winslow. All right. Good stuff on the offense. Now, this is the one part they hate, and I mean hate, their kicker. They will not let him on the field. Dude, if it's 4th and 2, they're going for it. Their kicker is very sketchy. We've had some issues at Texas. We're not dealing with this. So 114th in the country in red zone. Texas is also like 100 in red zone. So these teams are similar in that regard. So they're not going to kick the field goal. Know that. Don't celebrate the 3rd and 1 stuff.
Honestly, man, I think it's helped their win expectancy because they've got Scattaboo and a good quarterback who doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
They have to go for it on like 4th and 6 on the opponent 25. And if you look at it analytically, that's actually more coaches should be doing that.
Correct.
And so I think it's actually Boyd, B-U-O-Y, not Ian Boyd. It's Boyd, their football team. I think they've won more games than they should have because they have to go for it.
Their bad kicker has actually given them positive expected value.
Yes.
And made them do the right thing when the conservative thing is actually
take the points. Always take the points.
Always take the points. Unless we convert, then we never say take the points.
Unless we convert, and that's good aggression. Good play call.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a cop out. You can't, in football, you guys can't make decisions based on the outcome. You have to only use the prior logic. Interceptions per game, like we said, Paul did a good point. They don't turn the ball over. 8th in the country in interceptions per game. Great job. 3rd in fumbles per game. So this team's not going to beat themselves.
Yeah, what's cool about Levitt, if you watch him, because he's athletic, he's mobile, he's got a live arm, and he's a redshirt freshman. So there's this expectation that I'm a playmaker. I'm going to make a play. And like when it's not there, He just runs it, or he throws
Dude,
the ball out of
he's
bounds.
a backbreaker quarterback runner. Like, he's not obsessed with the run. He's the guy that, like, it's close in the fourth quarter. They're in the red zone. He hasn't ran in a quarter and a half. That's whenever nothing's there. You completely box
And he
him
drops
up
the 17-yard touchdown.
Yeah, and you're like, ugh. Like, he's that kind of running quarterback where when it counts type of thing.
He doesn't reverse field 3 times and then have it a sack for -19. Like, that's not his thing. Or he doesn't roll out and then dodge a guy and then go YOLO and throw the ball up and it gets pick 6. He does not make those plays. And he's a huge reason that Arizona State's in the position that they are.
Absolutely. So offense is good, but it's all about the run game. That's what they need to win it. And the big question, does that scale when you're facing an NFL defense with 8 out of 11 guys probably going pro, right?
I'm also going to question his official roster listing, Cam Scadaboo, of 5'11".
Yeah.
He looks like he's 5'9".
Yeah. Well, everybody's roster, you got to take off 10 pounds and at least an inch in height for every single player.
Or, if you get to DBs, you add 10, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they try to keep them slight.
They're trying to convince us Trey Wisner's 200 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe it.
Dude, he's 250 in heart.
That's
All
right.
Let's look at the defense here. The defense for Arizona State is the relative weakness, but still not bad. Because like we said, we're in the playoffs, guys. Like, no one's like 100th ranked in anything. But
so if you guys have watched college football broadly, and I do mostly because I gamble, but they remind me a lot defensively of Washington with Belichick. Very big on not giving up explosives. They play every down situationally, and they sort of get into guessing games, but in a good way. Not in a Todd Orlando, like, I'm going to guess and I'm going to rush, I'm going to blitz 9, whatever, right?
They have a very particular blitz pattern that they run a lot.
They have a blitz pattern, but they're not talented enough, but they don't have good enough pass rushers to get home.
Right.
So their goal is to just speed you up and bother you.
Yeah.
And then their secondary is legitimately good. And I think the only part of their defense that would translate to higher level football, like SEC. They don't have a lot of dudes, man, up front, and they have to scheme them up. And God bless them, they do an amazing job, and they do a really good job scheming up against the run because they don't have natural run stoppers. They do a lot of slanting and replacement and gaps, and it throws off the opposing offensive line's blocking schemes. As long as we're sound and we get bodies on bodies, those guys are moving backwards. And our running backs are moving forward.
Yeah, Arizona State does not want to play phone booth football. So they want to be moving because one-on-ones, they're not going to be able to deal with this. So they're like you said, super slanting, that kind of stuff is going to be their friend. It's going to be important. Because if you watch Iowa State, that first quarter, Iowa State is moving them at will.
Well, what's crazy is they're doing it and not getting anything out of it. Yeah. Like, they're moving it, and it's blocked. Like, there's 5 line yards, and then the Iowa State running back gets 5 yards.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you should be breaking. Like, if you had Breece Hall, there'd be 50 and 60-yard runs getting broken here. So now that we have Jaden re-energized JetBlue, and Trey will be fine. He'll be healed up. I think we're going to see some runs get popped in this game.
Sun Devils are a better team than Clemson. Don't get too cocky, Texas fans.
They are not.
They are not. And NFL talent-wise, they are not. Just the reality. Clemson, quote-unquote, fell off. They're still the 5th most talented team in the nation as far as pros.
Well,
they don't have a good middle class.
Talk about cockiness, right? This isn't Texas has an opponent. Texas is amazing. We're going to blow out everybody. This is better talent. And Arizona State actually has bad matchups with us.
Yeah.
So, when you look at these kinds of games, sometimes matchups will dictate how the game gets played out. And certain teams that are inferior to us, talent-wise, actually match up with us really well in style of play or what they can do. And so the game's a slog. But this is an instance where the talent is clearly better and clearly better at like key places. It's not our star talent that's better. It's, it's not that no one thinks Jaden Blue is better than Cam Scadaboo. I promise you that.
Yeah.
It's the line of scrimmage, and it's the fact that their matchups and what Arizona State does well runs up exactly against what we do well. And that doesn't play out well when you're the inferior team.
Yeah. Styles make fights, right?
That's it. I think I've said that a few times.
Yeah. So this is the defense. Opponent points per game, 22nd in the country. We'll do this schedule caveat here, right? But 22nd in the country. They face a good amount of plays per game. Opponent yards per game, they're 30th, solid. Like we said, playoff teams are always going to be solid. D points per drive, 48th, right? So that's actually interesting. When their yards per play is 30th and their points per drive is 48th, to me, that's going to indicate some red zone stopping issues.
I think that's red zone and pace.
Yeah.
So Arizona State plays games where you look up and you're like, the first quarter's over?
Yeah, they do.
It's like, whoa, that went fast. Each team had one possession. That's weird.
Yeah. Defensive success rate, 70th, right? So this is Paul's kind of talking. This is a bend but don't breaky defense. This is a zone defense. They want eyes on quarterbacks. They're dropping a lot. They're not sending. They'll do unique stunts and stuff like that. But as far as like sending the house, they almost never do that. They're doing unique twists and stunts that will make you, if you're just watching it for a second, feel like this is a blitz. Technically, numbers-wise, it's not a blitz.
And they bring DBs a lot.
Yeah. And so we'll talk about their unique ability to bring the corner or the nickel. But their nickel's out for the first half because he got a targeting on one of those plays, actually. Smacked the Iowa State quarterback in the head. But defensive success rate, 70th, right? So this is very much a bend but don't break, keep eyes on the quarterback type defense. And because of that, they're pretty good at stopping the explosive play, which makes sense, right? For a bend.
But they don't inflict a lot of havoc.
Correct.
Not a lot of negatives. That doesn't play well against Texas.
Right.
Because, again, Texas fans get all obsessed with Georgia games and they think that defines the team.
Yeah. Against
everyone else, people don't inflict negative plays on Texas because the offensive line is really sound. We get the ball out. Trey Wisner, who's been our primary back, doesn't screw around. He tries to get up the field and salvage bad plays, right? So
how does Texas get beat, right? Texas gets beat by getting held under 50 yards rushing with 6 sacks.
By 5 NFL players in your front 7.
Correct. So that we think Arizona State's going to hold us under 50 with getting 6 sacks. I don't think that's the case. So just because Georgia can do it, like we said, there's levels to this. Georgia's on a different tier. If that's how you beat Texas, there's probably 2, maybe 1 team in the country, and that's Georgia, that can inflict that kind of damage, and they did it twice.
Well, coming into the Clemson game, I was like, hey, Kelvin Banks, if he's healthy, he matches up great with TJ Parker. TJ Parker is not going to be a factor. And people are like, TJ Parker has 11 sacks. But it's like, that's nice.
Yeah.
This isn't Georgia, dude. Like, just relax.
And you also need more than one end.
Yes.
One good end is not enough to beat Texas. Now you got several like Georgia, you're moving them around. That can cause issues. But just one, fine. All right. So defensive rushing, not bad, right? 33rd in yards per rush. 48th in success rate, but they do give the explosive run a little bit. Texas is not good at that. But if Jaden Blue can recreate what he did last week, man, that adds so much to this offense.
Dude, he looked like Jahmyr Gibbs. That's Jaden Blue. That was Texas Tech from last year, Jaden Blue.
Yeah, the Wyoming run too that he did. Like that, dude, if we have Wisner every down backing, just picking up his 5 yards. You get Jarrett Gibson that can come in for 3rd and 1, and then you get Jaden that twice a game is going to like bust a 50-yarder. Now this running offense is clicking in a threat.
Yes, sir.
So opponent yards per rush, 33rd. But also, is there anybody in the Big 12 that has this level of NFL talent on the offensive line?
No.
Right.
Yeah, the Big 12's down.
Right.
So they are – it's a different level of league top to bottom than the SEC or Big Ten. Duh. Yeah. However, they're down as well. And I don't just mean because Texas and OU are out of the conference. Obviously, that's part of it. They are down globally, like even against their history. they're down, because the Big 12 has had good offensive line play, in certain years. And the big O-line that was supposed to come back and be awesome this year and just laid a giant egg because they had like 200 combined returning starts.
Who?
Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had all these returning starters, 6-year guys. They were supposed to come out and just dominate, and they sucked.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So yeah. So they're pretty good. Like they fight. One thing I'm not gonna say Arizona State is like soft or doesn't try. Like that, they 100% are playing football. It's just, man, that Iowa State rushing attack early just sticks out to me. That's not good. They were just getting completely pushed around by a whatever kind of offensive line. All right, opponent yards. I don't care about that. I don't even know why I keep it on. I think I do it for the fans. Defensive rushing success rate, 48th. Defensive rushing activity, 71st. They give it away. Defensive line yards, a proxy for your defensive line. Stopping the run. What you'll also notice in the run stopping, Arizona State's run stoppers are their secondary. So all 3 leading tacklers are a nickel and 2 safeties. And then if you look at their run grades, their corners are really good in the run. It's all secondary. So basically the linebackers. Here's what's happening. The defensive line is not very good in the run game. They're undersized, all of that. So they get ate up by the offensive line. Now there's a double team. So now that double team with ease can work right to the linebacker. So now you've canceled out the defensive line and the linebackers when your linebacker should be leading and tackling. Now the safeties are having to do all the work. That's because the box is not great against the run. Even though I do two of their linebackers, they switch them out. But McCullough and Crooks, I think, really good pass defenders. And McCullough is a good looking athlete. Like he's got a good frame, but this is not when you just look at dudes run stopping, not great.
So at their best, because their run defense has been successful, right? Mm-hmm. When it works, what it is guys slanting, replacing, doing stuff that's not supposed to be sound against the run.
I was gonna say they come off they get a tackle running behind the line, but that's because they left their assignment. And
that's very disruptive to the initial play. It doesn't lead to a lot of tackles for loss, but the running back's having to bounce, or he's seeing a weird picture, and then the secondary guys are coming up and cleaning up as the guy's bouncing out. That's what it looks like when it succeeds. When it doesn't succeed, teams are zone blocking them and saying, we don't care where you run. I'm blocking a part of the field. And if you show up there, I'm going to drive you. And then let the back make a cut off that.
Yep. And
that's something that can be distorting for what they're trying to do. Now, are they going to show up a play or two and a guy like one of their 280-pound defensive tackles shows up and shoots a gap and shows up in the backfield? Yeah, that'll happen. But more often than not, if Texas gets body on body, it's going to go real poorly for Arizona.
Well, here's the difference, right? When me and Paul are talking about talent, we're not just trying to be like SEC snobs and like switch up after that. They don't have a 300-pounder on the defensive line. Like that matters. And you don't have one. It's like that's the difference here, guys. When we talk about like just NFL bodies. And then we got some old friends, right? Zach Swanson. He cut the legendary promo a week ago or whatever. But fair play, man. We got Prince Dorba. He was going to be the great member. We couldn't rush to save our lives. Dorba was going to be the answer there. Clayton Smith. I think this is Texas High Clayton Smith, isn't it? Went to OU originally, I believe. He was he was a year ahead of
Isn't he from Texarkana?
Texas, wherever Texas High is. Texas City, right? Or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But he was in we had Derek Brown, teammate of Derek Brown for us. I think this is the OU one. Chat, you guys can tell me, or Charlie, you'll probably remember better than me. So we have some things there. So a couple of familiar faces. We have O'Meary on offense. Jake Smith still on offense over there. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that guy's been in football for a while.
Yeah.
Clayton Smith was a big deal.
Yeah, he was
Texarkana.
Okay, Texas. Yeah, let me see. Clayton Smith. Yeah, he was at OU. That's where he went originally.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because isn't their helmet our logo? Not officially, but
I don't know.
it is. They're orange or whatever too. Like every high school like has the Georgia G, but somehow they're allowed to do it. It's interesting. All right, so that's the run game. Pretty good rushing defense. Does it scale? But also, Texas doesn't have some like juggernaut rushing attack either. So it's not like this could be interesting. This could go either way technically, even though I think our offensive line is going to move them. All right, so defensive passing. Opponent yards per pass, they're 20th in the country. That's good. Pass success rate, very bend but don't breaky, right?
So yeah, that's the other thing you'll see. I'm sure it'll be reflected in their third down rate. They give up third downs because even on 3rd and 6, they're going to play off 9 yards.
Correct. So the answer here, right, is remember how we played against Georgia early with the comebacky stuff? That's what you're going to have to do. So it's going to have to be not Bond, but whoever Golden's going to run. They're going to back off into cover 3 or some type of 2 high. And then you're going to have to walk back down your stem and get the ball.
Again, we talked about matchups. This matches up well with what we want to do with Quinn Ewers. So you're taking what I would call like leverage throws where by alignment, if you just execute the throw, good pass protection, good snap, good throw, good catch, you get 9 yards, you get 8 yards.
Yeah.
Arizona State concedes that. A certain amount of their defense is built on the idea that Big 12 quarterbacks aren't very good this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fairly good bet.
You know what was interesting too? BYU was having a lot of success in the jet game. We don't run a ton of jet. We do some stuff with the wingo, but jet ultimately is just a lateral stretch. And we love to stretch teams laterally. Iowa State did some good stuff in the screen game. Texas is like overly reliant on the screen game, and
we're going to open the game with a throwback screen, Connor.
Yeah. So it's like
2nd and 17.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't want the throwback screen, but I'm okay with the screens in this game because like I said, the corners back out quickly and they give you the flats. So that's perfect for the screens. And their lateral quickness has been tested a few times. I've seen it versus BYU, a little bit of Iowa State, and they've struggled a little bit there. So I do want to test them on the perimeters there. But so bad pass success rate, nickel and dime them. And what they're betting is too, especially with Sark, like Sark can't help himself. Sark's going to throw the deep ball. And that's what they're hoping. They're hoping you don't take it, throw the deep ball. Now it's 2nd and 10. Now something happens with that. Now you're 3rd and 6, blah, blah, blah. But because of this, they're 23rd in passing explosivity, right? So they're not giving up the big play, which is the whole style of this defense. And that most importantly, they want to be keeping the eye on the quarterback. What damns them here, right? If you want to play zone, the best thing you can do, zone, eyes on quarterbacks, you better have a crazy pass rush, right? Because that's going to force the ball out. You have zone eyes. Now you can get interceptions. The problem, and they do all right with interceptions, but the problem is these guys can't sack anybody. They're 122nd in the nation. They have Clayton Smith. They have Dorba. What do we know about Clayton Smith and Dorba? One couldn't cut it at Texas. The other couldn't cut it at OU.
Right. Someone had asked, are they similar to Vanderbilt? On offense, no. Defense, maybe.
I'd have to go look, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, remember, like Vanderbilt liked to blitz their big nickel.
They did.
They played zone behind.
Yeah.
They're trying to just hurry you. They're not necessarily trying to get sacks, although they got sacks against us.
Yeah, they did.
I think that might be an interesting comparison, but it's a different style of defense than what we've encountered. It's a different way of playing defense because they don't have the bodies up front. So they're having to, I will also say Clemson had more talent on defense. Arizona State tries harder.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson guys like kind of tap out. Like when you get your body on them and they kind of concede the victory if you get the initial jump on them. They're not trying to like doggedly pursue and like, their guys are like, oh, the ball's by me, I'm going to turn and watch. Arizona State doesn't do that.
Well, in Arizona State, right? Arizona State culturally is built. We are the underdog.
Try hard.
Yeah, Clemson doesn't have that culture because Clemson's won championships recently and they still got dudes. So yeah, they also have that built in of like, we got to go hard. And like I said earlier, the defense goes after the ball. Now they're not assignment sound always. There's some times you can make them pay for that. but they try hard. They play hard. But most importantly, they're just really struggling to stack guys. DFEI right now, they're 35th. Their talent is 30th. So this is showing a little bit discrepancy, right? Playing a little under their talent base.
I don't buy that talent thing.
They're
taking the old like high school stars of guys who failed and then transferred. That's stupid.
Well, their team talent ranking right now is still 30th in the country. Arizona State is not a lowly talented team. They're one of the most
but again, that's a lot of those dudes are like, are they even counting guys on the roster? Or is it Herm Edwards recruiting rankings that aren't relevant?
So I don't know about DF Plus. I can ask them, but I know team talent ranking is accounting for transfer out.
I don't buy all that.
Yeah. So
this whole broadcast has been a farce because of the team talent ranking.
That's what got you. That's what's funny. But yeah, but the thing is here too, right? Team talent ranking, say it's off. Let's give it a standard margin, right? Still make them 40th, 45th. Still more talented than you think Arizona State is, right?
Yeah.
And what Arizona State's done well because of Brian Carrington as well, right? Brian was formerly at Texas. They took a lot of Texas players. They took a lot of our potential second stringers later in the year, later in their cycle, and then third stringers when they took them. So not good enough to play at Texas type players, but not good enough to play at Texas doesn't mean they're a bad player. And then Brian Carrington's also from Texas, knows that recruiting ground, so he can pull Clayton Smith from OU. He can pull those kind of guys. And they get a lot of guys from Texas. And don't forget, Arizona is a very quiet, people need to know it better, as a really solid recruiting ground lately as well. Arizona State, or I keep calling it state. The state of Arizona is.
Yeah, I actually wrote some articles about that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Just a function of pure population. I mean, Arizona, as many other places in the Sun Belt, has just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place like Dallas, like Atlanta, where a lot of former athletes like to retire or like to go live after their careers. And guess who's more likely to produce an NFL or college player?
Who?
NFL and college players.
Oh, well, yeah.
So,
yeah, you always
genetics.
One thing you told me like a year ago or two ago, you were like, the best way to get faster. And I was like, what? You were like, get different parents.
Yeah.
and that always stuck out to me that, like so much of this is genetic determinism. That's why I love when NFL athletes just talk about the hard work and the skill. And I'm like, 90% of why you're in the NFL is because your dad married your mom. It didn't have a ton there's hard work and skill, but 90% of it was done that one evening.
You just got to not weed yourself out.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like offensive tackles, right? There was some hard work and skill in there, but 95% chance Cam Williams was going to the NFL from birth. All right. Standard downs rates, above average, not great. They're below average in standard down success rate. So that's important. Now they do blow up a little bit better, slightly above average on passing down success rate. So on third downs, they seem to be a little bit stronger there. But what you'll notice, right? Third down defense.
That's what I was referencing earlier. Like, even when it's 3rd and 5, they're going to be in off coverage.
Right.
And they're basically saying, we don't think you can complete this. God help me, I'm about to make a baseball analogy. But if you guys remember Cliff Gustafson back in the day, one of the things he sort of believed was that college pitchers can't throw a strike when they need to. And so his whole thing was go up there and take. Or if the guy gets behind, 2-0, 2 balls, no strikes, just stand there. Like literally just take. Because this guy will put you on base. He's not good enough to throw a strike when he needs to. And it's sort of a disrespect of college pitchers, and it was a pretty good philosophy for a lot of Texas teams, right? Yeah. Texas teams would get on base a lot, even without necessarily, great hitting. And Arizona State's defensive philosophy, which is a correct one, says, hey, the Big 12 is down on quarterbacks. The one thing the Big 12 should always have, right? Badass quarterbacks, just because of the reliance on high school Texas spread guys, right? They didn't have them this year. And so Arizona State's whole approach was, we don't think you can make the throw. Make the throw. And guys would make the throw, but it's for 7. It's not for 27. And so that was kind of their philosophy on defense, and it obviously won them a Big 12 title.
Yeah. Red zone D, 77th, below average. So they're struggling to stop guys when they get in the red zone. What's interesting, though, is Texas like 100th in red zone offense. So what happens here, right? Because normally you'd be licking your lips at this, but Texas struggles there. So it's like, can Texas capitalize there?
Yep.
Like we said, the pass rush is really bad, 109th in the country in sacks per game. Because of this zone focus, and this is what's impressive, man.
A lot of interceptions.
Yeah, and they should really be like in the 60s here with this pass rush, because the pass rush is what you need to force it. But, man, they're even with a horrible pass rush, and like Paul said earlier, they're not getting concrete sacks, but Dorba and Smith are fast off the ball. I mean, they'll speed the quarterback up regardless, because quarterbacks aren't trained to wait for the sack. They're trained to get when you get close to them. And so they can get closer to them. But this is an impressive amount of interceptions for this poor of a finishing pass rush.
I think a lot of credit here goes to not only coaching and scheme, which is really well done, but I love Xavier Alford, former Longhorn. That's a guy that if he was still here, he would be in the mix. Maybe we wouldn't have gone after Makuba, to tell you the truth. I think he'd be starting with Taft.
The 40 acres landlord. Yeah. So
40 acres landlord. He played well at USC, and he's played great for Arizona State.
So, yeah, remember when I said these players can't play for Texas? I'll change that. Alford, I believe, would play.
Yeah, Alford would definitely – he's just played lights out at safety. And then I love the guy that got the targeting suspension for the first half against Texas. Shamari Simmons is a really good nickel.
He is.
Super physical, just a baller. Like that, he's that guy. He hits hard. He gets after it. I think that where they can be had is at corner. I think there's a reason that those guys are playing off on third down because they understand what happens when they try to press.
They're also little guys. They're also 5'11", 175, 185. And so they're small, but I will give it to them. I don't know so much about Abney, but Robinson in the games I've watched, like they know they're little and it pisses them off. Like they play hard. Yeah, exactly. Like they're like, man, I know I'm being targeted because I'm a little guy, but the heart's not an issue there.
You mentioned little. That is a trait that's shared across that defense. They're undersized on the D line.
Yeah,
they're not big in the secondary, and their linebackers aren't big. So they are predicated on scheme, system, quickness, willingness to rally to the football, and just executing against, frankly, not great Big 12 offenses.
But McCullough, you do need to be aware, McCullough and Crook really good in pass defense for linebackers.
Well, they're all undersized. They can all run.
Yeah.
So, and they play zone. So it's basically they've got a pair of big safeties playing linebacker. And, that's very helpful to them in terms of covering ground and just sort of eating up some of the things that teams, have easy meals on, right? The little dump off to your running back doesn't go for 11. It goes for 4.
Yeah. Cool. And then, but because of the offense not turning the ball over and they're able to get a lot of interceptions, this team is 6th in the country for turnover margin. That matters, right? Interestingly, not a good special teams, right? I mean, they hate their kicker. It's funny. We can relate, right, to some of the pains there. Now, strength of schedule, they're 83rd in the country. Let me pull up Texas.
Wait. In special teams?
They're 80th in the country in special teams.
No. You're saying their ELS strength of schedule is 83rd?
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy that. That's not possible.
What do you mean? Worse or better?
No, better. 83rd would be like Bowling Green.
Let me see. I can pull it up. Let me make sure I didn't get anything wrong. Arizona State. Find them. Yeah, here they are. Arizona State's ELS. No, 83rd.
I want to know what goes into ELS because that's nonsense.
Let's pull it. ELS, strength of schedule ratings represent the number of teams 2 standard deviations above average would expect to have against the schedule of opponents. That's ELS. So their ELS is 83rd. Texas's ELS right now is 27th.
Okay. All right. Maybe I need to study ELS because it sounds like they're not looking at opponents played. They're looking at.
I think they're looking at a neutral and then 2 standard deviations above what an average team, when they take the median, would do against that schedule.
So it tells me that there's a lot of Big 12 teams that are above average that are not hitting that deviation.
Right.
So, okay, they're getting penalized for, okay. Here's the other thing that's hard for people to wrap their heads around. By most power rankings, whatever you think of them, and there's a reason they exist, and there's a reason gamblers use them. By power rankings, Arizona State would be a double-digit SEC team. Like 10th in the league.
Yeah.
So people go, oh, that's stupid. Oh, they wouldn't be, oh, that's ridiculous. On a neutral field, South Carolina is favored against Arizona State. I mean, that's not even debatable.
Right.
Alabama favored against Arizona State. OU, Arizona State might be -2.5.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of it. You guys can do with that what you will, or you can say Arizona State's playing great ball now. It's not reflected in the power rankings, all that stuff. But also Tyson Davis is out. So the fact is Texas should beat this team. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. They better show up and play. But, this is a bad draw for Arizona State.
Yeah. Let's add. So as far as did they play any blue bloods? No. Their best win was number 17 BYU, right? Former independent G5 caliber. Their second best win is Iowa State. And the question is, Texas didn't have the strongest schedule either. That's what's so cool about this argument, guys. If you just wait till Wednesday, the argument solves itself. You don't have to argue schedules because we'll play each other. And you'll get to kind of see how it works.
You know what? Someone in the chat just reminded me. Leavitt didn't play against Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
That was Jeff Sims, who is the worst quarterback that still somehow gets backup. Do you remember him at Nebraska?
I don't even remember him. He
would either fumble or throw an interception every 8 times he handled the ball or something crazy, some crazy stat. But he played at Georgia Tech before that. This is his third school. He's the backup at Arizona State, and he's just awful. So it does show how crucial Sam Leavitt is to that team and that offense that they'd lose to Cincinnati. So great job, chat. Thanks for reminding.
You guys skipped the SEC powers. Guys, we'll find out on Wednesday. We don't have to argue about schedules. The reality is neither team had a super tough gauntlet. But
we didn't skip the SEC powers.
We played Georgia. We played Georgia. We played the power twice.
We played the power twice.
The problem is, don't say the second half of it, though. Don't say that we lost. Just say that we played them twice.
Well, first game, we got skunked on offense.
Yeah.
Defense played great. Second game, we lost in overtime. So, relax.
Yeah. BYU started 10-0. Yeah.
You guys have seriously underestimated Sark's ability to underachieve. Yeah.
Well, I actually have my Sark underachievement stat right here. Oh, no, it's at 34%. All right, Paul, we've got the offense and defense.
The thing I would say that most characterizes Sark since he took over the moribund Texas program and went 5-7, there's not even you can't identify a trend in our wins and losses year to year of improvement.
Oh yeah, certainly.
5-7, 8-5, 12-2.
Yeah.
And now we're 7-win Steve. Well, we got some rocket scientists in the chat. That's awesome.
I do. The 7-1 Steve cracks me up because that was the member. All the arguments was Steve can't win 10 games. He did that. Then it was Steve can't win a championship, the Big 12 championship, did that. And then now that those tranches have been fit, well, now he can't get over the top until he gets over the top. And then once you win one national championship, well, you can't win 2. You're not a dynasty. Oh, well, if you win 2, can you win 3 like a dynasty? It never ends, man.
Yeah, Texas is 12-2 right now. So 7 wins happened back in October, brother.
Yeah. It's a wider societal thing. Like everyone's arguments about everything, it seems, are just disingenuous.
Honestly, I don't watch it. I see the clips every now and then. I just realized that there is a portion of our population who watches like First Take or who watches ESPN idiot shows.
Yeah.
And they actually think that that's analysis of football
Yep.
or anything, or even rational thinking.
But we just did an hour.
We just say change your inputs and you'll get better opinions.
Yeah. We just did an hour and 20 showing you guys all of our thoughts based on data, tape, and personnel. All right, Paul, we're going long. Let's be quick here. Okay, so what do you think of Ohio State, Oregon? And who do you want to face?
I mean, that's going to be an amazing game. It's a rematch. Obviously, Ohio State got the 1-point victory at home. Tore up that Ohio State defense a lot more than people expected. I don't know. I think Ohio State's playing better, and they certainly had a better game plan, because what they rolled out against Michigan was embarrassing. They rolled out the game plan they should have had against Michigan, against Tennessee, and destroyed Tennessee. Who would I rather face?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I feel like the Ohio State defense would give us a lot of trouble in terms of matchups. I think we do much better against Oregon's defense, but I think Oregon's offense would give us more trouble. Will Howard is kind of the X factor. I don't care, actually. I think whoever comes from it, we're going to have to play a really good team.
I was going to say, it feels like either one is going to be a tough game.
And I mean, I tell you, the high favorite will be that quarterfinal matchup of whoever, Texas versus Ohio State, Oregon winner. That's going to be your favorite to win the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's
Notre Dame, Georgia?
What'd you say?
Notre Dame, Georgia?
Yeah, Notre Dame, Georgia. What do you think,
man?
Probably Notre Dame with no back.
Yeah, Notre Dame's really banged up on defense, apparently.
That's interesting.
So I'm wondering if Georgia can run the ball. I'm kind of curious about Etienne's health. I love Etienne.
So do I.
I might go Georgia there.
Okay.
And then Penn State, Boise. Penn State's going to win.
Right. Yeah.
It
would be funny if they don't, though.
It would be funny. It's a similar deal to us against Arizona State. It's not just that Penn State's better. Boise State's got their running back. But the difference between Boise State and Arizona State is Arizona State has a legitimate quarterback in Sam Leavitt. Boise State has the worst quarterback in the playoff by far, Maddox Madsen. And you saw what deficient or bad quarterback play looked like in the opener against SMU. So Penn State's got enough dudes on their D to eat that up.
Yeah, SMU. Oof, man. Giving the ball away. And then, Paul, who do you think wins versus Texas, Arizona State?
Texas.
Wow. I couldn't glean that. Good stuff, man. That was fun. Arizona State, I think they deserve to be here. Like, they're a fun team. What Dillingham's done is impressive. In year 2, I think their culture's right. I think they're finding value in their recruiting or in their portaling, all that stuff. I think this is a good program for Arizona State fans. We can go back and forth, but I think you guys have got you a good head coach there, and you guys are clearly seeing the results of that. Now we just got to see if there is, in fact, levels to this, right? Because Texas also, right? Texas is a damn good football team, but Texas can also do some weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and Arizona State's really well coached. They've done an awesome job. They should get like amazing credit for what they accomplished. It's amazing what they were terrible last year.
Yeah.
And they went from the basement to the very ceiling. And this is a team playing at its ceiling, like at every position and every unit. And you got to have respect for that.
Yep.
But there's levels to football, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. And wide receiver 1 being out makes a big difference to me.
That's a big deal because Texas would have actually had to be concerned about that guy.
Yeah, 1,000%. All right, fans of Texas, thanks for coming. Fans of the Sun Devils, thank you guys for watching as well. And we don't have our normal schedule because the game's not on Saturday. It's on next Wednesday. So we'll see if we double back next Tuesday and talk about it again. We'll probably pick a different angle. Maybe we'll even break down Texas specifically or something like that to try to do that on that Tuesday. But Thank you guys for hanging out. Me and Paul enjoyed it. Paul, thank you as well.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, and Merry Christmas. Enjoy your Christmas Eve, guys. Enjoy time with your family and all of that. Hook 'em.
Okay.